is and becoming. In this section we will go into detail about the state of being and the state of becoming. Your current state of being is based on the language of generalizations of how you see yourself now based on how you have described the fact and existence of being. Your current state of being is based on your current subjective experience. Our subjective experience influences our objective experience, actions and reactions or expressions of these internal, subjective states. Who you are, light, is constantly being molded and shaped into a new state of being every time you change the generalization of the state of being. When you change the generalizations of the state of being, you ultimately change the state at which you become. In other words, you become more of the generalizations of what you think and say you are now, in the state of being. You have a current self and a future self. The past self no longer exists, it is a memory of what you were which influences what you will become. Time is a moment-to-moment state of being and becoming. When you learn to change the current state of being, then you have the principles of how to change the possibility of what you can become. This means that we are constantly going from one state of being into another state of being continuously. We must learn to attune to a state of what we want to become, by changing our current state of being. Your current circumstances do not define what and who you are, but it does influence what you can possibly be or what you will continue to be. Only you can choose this. But do not lie to yourself. Instead, see how it can be true if it isn't confirmable now. Know that who and what you are currently, was something that was learned by someone else. And from there, always becoming a version of that, even if you want or don't want to be it. This is because you haven't changed your belief generalization of what it is you currently are to ultimately become. If you want to change what you will become in the future, you have to change what you are currently in the now. This again comes back to the language you use to generalize who you are now and what you will and can become after the now. Your current state of being is made by how you feel and what you think, and based on what you believe to be true, so shall it be. The now and the future now as time unfolds itself according to your perception and what you hold in your mind as truth. The universe itself is a manifestation of ever-changing states of being and becoming. No physical particle seeks to remain the same. They are always in a state of movement and therefore constantly changing and adapting to the vibratory rate in which it forms objects through light and electromagnetic energy. In biology, the human organism seeks a state of equilibrium, and therefore will change according to environmental conditions. The mind is just the same. It is always in the states of being and becoming. Becoming, BKM, age suitable, appropriate n. 1. Any process of change, philosophy, becoming. In the philosophy of Aristotle, any change from the lower level of potentiality to the higher level of actuality. Potentiality and actuality. You must learn how to take your highest potential self and make it an actuality, by stepping into your light being and taking the necessary steps to change your current state of being into what you are ultimately becoming. What is and what isn't. What is what isn't. What exists now is not what exists later. Based on generalizations we perceive what is to be what isn't. But again, through generalizations we say, it exists or doesn't exist. What does not exist is only a perception of what you cannot observe to exist. Just because you cannot observe it with your eyes currently doesn't mean it doesn't exist, nor does it mean it's not already existing now. What is real is based on what you define as real. What exists and does not exist is based on what you define as existing. In this section we are speaking about the state of what is and the state of what is to become. We only perceive something to not exist because we aren't perceiving that reality with the right model for it to exist. In order for something to exist we must change the model and the way we are viewing that model for it to exist. If you want to become something you must realize that you are already that, even if you cannot see it, yet. The model must be changed. The only way to change the model, is to change the way we observe something to exist or not exist. As mentioned above, just because we cannot perceive the existence of something doesn't mean it doesn't exist, nor does it mean the possibility of it cannot exist. We must change the model in order to change the possibilities. And, since we are infinite beings of light, existing in an infinite world of all and every possibility imaginable, we must create the model to which we experience a specific possibility of all possibilities to exist in. This is done through changing the model. An example of this is the science of gravity. We know that gravity exists, not through our direct observation of it, but because of the model we use to measure planetary operations beyond our ability to see it. We have created a model for gravity to exist. We defined it and gave generalizations to an abstract concept of existence through language, which we use to understand what gravity is and how it works. We know that something holds us to the earth and therefore created a model for it to exist even though we cannot see it with our observable perception. It is justified through the model of possibilities. Through the process of defining and generalizing, we created a model to now understand its existence. If we want to change what we are currently, we must change our model of how we can see ourselves in the future. In other words, the model that we see ourselves as is the model we will become based on generalizations, even if we cannot perceive the existence of the reality in the now. This causes you to have a deep inner knowing to the state of becoming that already exists. Through this deeper inner knowing, you can create a new model by changing the generalizations and therefore alter the state of becoming in the current state of being. What is means to be. What isn't, which means not to be. 1. To exist in actuality, have life or reality. I think, therefore I am. 2. A. To occupy a specified position. B. To remain in a certain state or situation undisturbed, untouched. 3. To take place, occur. 4. To go or come. 5. Used as a copula in such senses as A. To equal in identity. B. To have a specified significance. C. To belong to a specified class or group. D. To have or show a specified quality or characteristic. E. To seem to consist or be made of. 6. To belong. The now is the future. Time is now. Time is the measurable experience of the unfolding present moment throughout time and space. It is what we call the now. What you experience now is who you will become in the following moments. There really isn't a future nor is there a past. There are only the unfolding moments of the now. Each unfolding moment of the now is a new moment to attune to a future possibility. The now is the now and that's all there ever was and will be. Focus on the present moment with ultimate possibilities. The future possibility now, in the present moment. Focus on the possibility and not what you don't want. What you don't want is an old paradigm. Let it go. Step into your infinite possibilities by finding out what you want and what you'll have in the future. If you want to become more successful, don't focus on not being successful. You perpetuate whichever possibility you choose to focus your attention on the most to the degree in which you focus on it in the now. Therefore, it's important to understand that you are no longer the old ideas. You are no longer those old beliefs. You are no longer the past. But you are the now and what you will become. So therefore, focus on what you want to be in the future, in the now, because that's what you are becoming in the continued unfolding states of the now, which we call the future. The goal of manifestation and self-actualization is to figure out what is the ideal version of yourself and who you want to be. Who is your future self? What does your future self look like? What does he or she do? How does he or she view the world? How does he or she live in this world? Once you can define these aspects of your future self, you can then start to align your life toward the lifestyle, mentality and states of being of that person, and step into actualizing it. This is one of the first steps in self-actualization. The system of self-actualization is seeing yourself in the second and third person point of view. And then from there, stepping into vibrational alignment with that state of being, as if it were you looking at your future self in the mirror and then taking away that mirror, to then be left with only the ideal version of yourself. Then from there it's about being that person. It's not about wanting to be that person. It's about just stepping into that state of being. Just start being that person. This can only happen once you figure out who that person is, and then redefining yourself in order to fit that model self. Start living in your ideal self's shoes. Do not think, if I do XYZ, then I will be my ideal self. This will keep you in the state of ifs and not in the actual state of being. Instead, just start being that person. Visualize, see and feel yourself in the now as your ideal self. This is done by stepping into the now version of self. As soon as you take the first step in now as that person, then you are actualizing that future self, now. Remember, once you can define who your ideal self is, then you can be your ideal self, now. It's that simple. But the work is demanding if you want true change, manifestation and actualization. Unfold to become clear, apparent, or known. To unravel. Your mind is the result of 1,000 yesterdays. Bruce Lee. Changing core beliefs. In order to change who we will become, we must change our model of who we are now, currently. This is done through the process of changing your core beliefs. Changing your core beliefs is a process. Sometimes we have held onto a belief generalization about ourselves and the world around us because we hold it dear to us because it keeps us safe. Beliefs are there because 1. We cannot know everything, the brain isn't physically capable of holding that much information in consciousness nor in memory, the universe is way bigger than our brain. And 2. These generalizations help us make sense of the world in relation to ourselves to keep us out of harm's way, so we can continue to eat, sleep, and reproduce. In order to change who we are and to transform into what we will become, we must change our core beliefs. These are the generalizations of who we are and what we are capable of right now. Our core beliefs are not our own, and usually comes from the people around us, our family, friends, co-workers and people we hold as life guides or power figures, in our personal lives. Sometimes their beliefs hold us back. Know that it's not their fault either, because they were given those beliefs by someone else as well.